Nevermore Academy is a safe haven and a bastion for every sort of outcast and mythical creature seen in Wednesday. In this school, students are accepted and embraced as they are. Whether they are the blue-eyed sirens like Bianca Barclay, or pretty-clawed lycanthropes like Enid Sinclair, or even psychics that conjure visions like Wednesday Addams and Xavier Thorpe. In this Tim Burton show, Wednesday Addams sets out to distinguish herself from the Addams Family and extinguish anything standing in the way. Now, if you ask me, Burton's take on Charles Addams's perennially ooky characters is rather unique, as they do not refract the broken mirrors of regular people. Wednesday neuters that possibility right in the opening sequence of Season 1, after which she is tossed off into the very alternative school, Nevermore, filled with cryptic co-eds. While Nevermore introduces us to a sprawling world of creatures in the form of outcasts, Wednesday still stands out as an outcast among these outcasts, who really are just your typical teenagers with varied abilities. They have all the problems and worries of high school students combined with the complications of having supernatural powers. However, not all the outcasts are treated equally, because there is one monster that both the students and normies of nearby Jericho do not want to mess with. And that is Hyde. Hyde holds a special place of enmity at Nevermore, and yes, the name does refer to the dual identities of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. While most of the outcasts in Wednesday are fairly obvious in what they are, Hyde's meaning and origin are slightly more vague. So of course, Wednesday spends a significant amount of time trying to pin the monster down. Having said that, let's take a gander at the history and anatomy of the Hyde we see in Wednesday. How does Wednesday Addams first stumble across the concept of Hydes at Nevermore? For most of Season 1, we barely knew who the monster was that kept murdering students and townsfolk in Jericho, and that mystery became the heart of Wednesday's investigation during her first term at Nevermore. Throughout the first season, she questioned a number of suspects in her search for the truth, such as Xavier, because his psychic visions of the monster seemed to pop out in a lot of his artworks. But it was only after Wednesday showed her Uncle Fester one of Xavier's psychic drawings that she could even begin to understand what she was up against. As Fester tells his favorite niece that she was dealing with a Hyde, he also mentioned that the last time he had seen one in the flesh was in 1983 during his vacation at the Zurich Institute for the Criminally Insane. Back then, the Hyde in question was a concert pianist named Olga Malakova, who had it all, ranging from brains, beauty, to a penchant for necrophilia. But one night she transformed during the middle of a Chopin sonata and massacred a dozen audience members, including 3 music critics. But that certainly wasn't enough information for us to explain what caused a Hyde's transformation, so Fester, Wednesday, and the ever-resourceful Thing decided that the best plan would be to sneak into the Nightshade's library in order to steal the diary of Nevermore's founder, Nathaniel Faulkner. Faulkner had apparently cataloged every outcast community he encountered on his travels before founding the school, including the Hyde. Once Wednesday gets to the book, she finds out how Faulkner described Hydes as artists by nature, but equally vindictive in temperament. He also wrote that Hydes are born of mutation, but they lay dormant until being unleashed by a traumatic event or unlocked through chemical inducement or hypnosis. This basically causes the Hyde to develop an immediate bond with its liberator, who the creature then sees as its master. It then becomes the willing instrument of whatever nefarious agenda this new master might propose. As Fester puts it, anyone willing to unlock a Hyde is a next-level sicko because it takes away the agency of an individual completely. But this also meant that Wednesday had to be on the hunt for 2 killers, the monster and its master. We also learned that Hydes were considered so dangerous and unpredictable that they were officially banned from Nevermore 30 years before the start of the series. After all, Faulkner was killed by one. Moreover, crafting the creatures was an opportunity for series creators Alfred Goh and Miles Millar to find something unique for the show's Big Bad, as Wednesday is about people not always showing their true self, in contrast to Wednesday, who always does. Even in the outcast's world, Hydes are something to be feared, and frankly, they are not welcome because they're so unstable and unpredictable. How did Tyler Galphin transform into a Hyde in Wednesday? So, not long after Tyler Galpin's birth, his mother's postpartum depression triggered the release of her Hyde, which then led her to be institutionalized for good. After Francois died from unknown causes, his father, the sheriff of Jericho, began neglecting and distancing himself from his son as he feared that Tyler might have inherited his late mother's Hyde nature. This neglect would have a devastating effect on Tyler, as he would take out his anger and abandonment issues on the outcasts from the school Nevermore Academy. After one incident where Tyler and his friends assaulted a Nevermore student named Xavier Thorpe and destroyed a mural he painted, he was court-ordered to attend therapy sessions with Dr. Valerie Kinbot. The sheriff also responded by deciding to send Taylor to a boot camp. During his time there, Tyler became much more in control of his emotions and really changed to be a kind, helpful, and somewhat introverted young man. He then got a job as a barista at a coffee shop called The Weather Vane. However, sometime after getting this job, Tyler came under the attention of a Weather Vane regular named Marilyn Thornhill, who was a teacher of botanical sciences at Nevermore. Now, of course, Tyler had no clue that Marilyn was actually Laurel Gates, the long-presumed dead daughter of the outcast-hating Gates family, who kept tabs on all the outcasts in Jericho, including Tyler's own mother. Laurel basically had plans to groom and manipulate Tyler to her control by unlocking and using his Hyde form to gather body parts for a necromancy seance. It was Laurel who eventually told Tyler the truth about his mother being a Hyde, something that his father had kept concealed from him. Tyler also discovered that his mother was institutionalized and ultimately died in part because Nevermore banned Hydes due to their dangerous behavior. When Tyler was reluctant to let Laurel unlock him, she began holding him captive in a remote cave where she used a plant-derived chemical to unlock his Hyde form, which makes the victim transform into a huge, violent, powerful, and humanoid-like creature that bonds with and obeys its master. At first, Tyler didn't have any control over his Hyde, nor did he remember his time as one whilst serving Laurel. However, he eventually started to remember more of his transformation and soon gained complete control over this form. Eventually, Tyler also realized that he actually enjoyed the death and massacres he committed, and developed a taste for blood. After that, he decided to serve Laurel voluntarily, embracing her as his master and even seeing her as a mother figure in the creepiest way possible. Tyler Galphin had quite the adventure in Wednesday Season 1. Tyler had transformed long before Wednesday came to Nevermore Academy in Season 1. Before she ever set foot in Nevermore, Tyler had already claimed 3 victims in his Hyde form. After each kill, he would take specific body parts and bring them back to the abandoned Gates mansion, where Laurel kept them hidden. The day after his 3rd murder, Tyler was back to playing the part of an ordinary barista at the Weather Vane, and that's when Wednesday wandered in after just having slipped away from a meeting with Dr. Kinbot. She ended up fixing the shop's broken coffee machine, catching Tyler's attention in the process. Later, when she reached out asking for help to sneak out of Jericho, he didn't hesitate to say yes. But things took a turn during the Jericho Harvest Festival as Wednesday had a sudden vision of Nevermore student Rowan Laszlo being killed, and she rushed into the woods to stop it. What she didn't realize was that Rowan had been planning to kill her all along. But before he could do anything, Tyler had already transformed into his Hyde form, ambushed Rowan, and tore him apart. In a twisted way, he had just saved her life, but for Wednesday, it was the start of an obsessive hunt to unmask the creature behind all the killings in Jericho. Ever since then, Wednesday and Tyler began seeing each other more often, usually meeting up at the Weather Vane. On Outreach Day, Tyler ended up working the same shift as Xavier, which clearly annoyed Xavier to no end. Later, Wednesday came to Tyler for help, and he led her to the site of the original Pilgrim Meeting House. When she went to check it out, Tyler secretly followed her, and in the middle of a thunderstorm, she caught a quick glimpse of him in his Hyde form. Naturally, she chased the creature through the rain and noticed that it left human footprints, meaning that whoever the Hyde was it wasn't always a monster. Now, on that same night, Tyler transformed again and killed a homeless squatter. Outwardly, though, he kept his friendly act intact and even seemed a little hurt when Wednesday asked Xavier out, as he had no clue that she only did it because she suspected Xavier was the Hyde. But once Xavier realized she was just using him to get closer to her suspect, he canceled their plans. Wednesday didn't waste time dwelling on it, and instead, she teamed up with her friend Eugene Ottinger to stake out the Hyde's cave, determined to catch the creature in action. But Thing, being ever the meddler, decided to take matters into his own hand. He sent Tyler an invitation to the Raven Dance, pretending it was from Wednesday, which left her with very little choice but to attend. When Wednesday and Tyler arrived at the dance, they ran into Eugene at the entrance. Eugene brought up their original plan to stake out the Hyde's cave, but quickly realized Wednesday had chosen the dance instead. A disappointed Eugene then headed off to the woods by himself in order to keep watch on his own. Now, Tyler had fully overheard Eugene's plan and quietly sent Laurel a warning that the Hyde's hideout had been discovered. So Laurel acted fast as she slipped into the woods and torched the cave to destroy any evidence that could be traced back to them. Meanwhile, back at the Raven Dance, a messy prank pulled by Lucas Walker, Carter, and Jonah broke up the fun. In that chaos, Tyler took the opportunity to slip away and transformed into the Hyde before making it to the forest. Around the same time, Wednesday was hit with a sudden vision that Eugene was in danger, so she bolted from the dance to find him, but was unfortunately too late, as Tyler had already attacked and left Eugene gravely injured, even though he was still alive. Even after this, Wednesday was clueless about Tyler's real identity. They simply kept meeting up, trading bits of information about the Hyde murder. One night, their search for answers brought them to the old Gates mansion, and Wednesday's roommate, Enid, came along for the investigation. While Enid and Wednesday explored the upstairs portion of the dilapidated mansion, Tyler stayed behind on the ground floor where he quietly transformed into the Hyde. Moments later, the monster was basically tearing through the house while chasing after them, and somehow the girls managed to escape. But of course, Tyler needed to cover his tracks, so he injured himself and shifted back into human form before they found him. Soon after this whole fiasco, Xavier, together with Wednesday and Enid, helped get Tyler back to his place to patch him up. But Wednesday's suspicions were already brewing, and she became convinced that Xavier was the Hyde. At the same time, she began to suspect that Dr. Kinbot might actually be Laurel Gates. Meanwhile, Laurel had figured out that Dr. Kinbot was getting too close to uncovering Tyler's secret and ordered him to kill her before she could blow the whole operation. With forged evidence planted, likely by Tyler or Laurel, Wednesday's doubts further solidified, and so she finally reported Xavier to the sheriff, leading to his wrongful arrest. Later that night, Wednesday stopped by the weather vane to see Tyler, and in a rare moment of vulnerability, they kissed, but the instant their lips touched, Wednesday was hit with a vision where she saw Tyler murdering Dr. Kinbot, and in that moment, everything clicked as it finally confirmed that Tyler was the real Hyde all along. She then bolted from the shop and later gathered a small group of Nevermore students to confront him. They ambushed Tyler, restrained him, and chained him to a chair. Wednesday laid out what she had discovered, ranging from how she had dug into his family history and learned his mother had once been a student at Nevermore. Her Hyde had been awakened, and not long after Tyler was born, she was committed to an institution. Determined to force a transformation, Wednesday then began torturing him. But before she could push things further, the sheriff arrived, catching her in the act and taking her into custody. At the station, Tyler asked to speak with her alone, and that's when he finally admitted everything. At first, he claimed he did not remember what happened during his transformations, but over time, he had gained full control over his monstrous self, which helped him stay aware and deliberate while he was in Hyde form. He also told her how much he enjoyed the killings, and as he watched Wednesday sitting there, defeated, he simply couldn't hide the satisfaction on his face, because to him, Laurel had already won. Subsequently, after this, Wednesday was expelled, and so Tyler headed to the train station, planning to catch her there and finish her off for good. But Wednesday never showed up because she had finally discovered that Marilyn Thornhill was actually Laurel Gates. When Tyler went back to Nevermore, he found Wednesday in chains after she was captured by Laurel. Smirking, he mocked her for being the one restrained this time. Laurel then ordered him to wait in the woods while she carried out her real plan. Using the body parts Tyler had collected, she performed a seance to resurrect her ancestor, Joseph Crackstone, who wasted no time in unleashing his magic on the school. During this time, Wednesday managed to break free and fled into the woods, only to be ambushed by Tyler in his Hyde form. He was seconds away from killing her when Enid, fully transformed into a werewolf, lunged out of the darkness and tackled him. The two monsters then clashed in a brutal fight, but Tyler had the upper hand as he overpowered Enid and came dangerously close to ending her life. But a gunshot from Sheriff Galphin broke his focus, giving Enid the opening she needed to knock him out cold. After Laurel and Crackstone were finally defeated, the sheriff, racked with guilt, took his own son into custody. Tyler was then strapped into a straitjacket and loaded into a transport truck bound for the same psychiatric hospital where his mother had been held years earlier. But as the vehicle rumbled down the road, Tyler began to change, the Hyde stirring inside him once again. And, well, folks, that's how Season 1 ended. I think the whole idea of having a dual personality, where you could hide behind one thing and become the other, simply feels right for a Wednesday Addams story. Plus, I'm sure that back then, all of our flabbers were equally gasted when everything led to Wednesday's shocking discovery that her pseudo-boyfriend, who was a local town barista, had been the Hyde all along, with his dorm mom and science teacher Miss Thornhill manipulating him as his master. Apparently, the actor who played Tyler Galpin's character, Hunter Doohan, always knew that there was a certain darkness to his character before he even stepped foot in Romania to begin filming. He first became suspicious of Tyler's intention in his final round of auditions for the part, especially when the showrunners told him that Tyler had a dark secret, which they could not have told him about. But they still wanted him to toy around with that idea during his audition. But as we learn, Tyler was never just the sweet boy who remembered Wednesday's coffee order and tag-teamed her on creepy investigation. He grew up having a very strained relationship with his sheriff father, who refused to ever talk about his absent mother, and he even assaulted Xavier with his friends the previous year. That dark side is likely what intrigued Wednesday in the first place. So after he comes clean at the Raven dance about bullying Xavier the past year, she tells him how she would not have judged him for it. Rather, she would have taken the prank even further, which is definitely a classic reaction coming from someone who threw piranhas into a pool full of her brother's bullies. Moreover, the idea that Wednesday discovers she was attracted to the serial-killing monster is very on brand for her, because no matter what, you'll find yourself looking back and think, why does she like this guy? He just seems so milquetoast. But actually, she senses something darker in him, which I think really just makes sense. It was really ironic how Wednesday learns Tyler's true nature when they share their first kiss in the penultimate episode, only to be interrupted by her vision of Tyler as the Hyde attacking the town therapist. The finale sees her finally putting the pieces together, as Tyler's mother was also a Hyde and a former Nevermore student whose postpartum depression triggered her condition, and how Miss Thornhill enlisted chemical means to unlock his alter ego, all so that he could help launch her personal vendetta against the outcasts of the school. I think Tyler's loyalty to his master is definitely due to her being the first person to tell him the truth about his mother, as Tyler grew up thinking his mom had died and that she had a mental illness which got her committed. Moreover, his dad never wants to talk about it, and that's bound to give a boy a shit ton of repressed childhood trauma. It makes sense how Tyler was initially terrified of his abilities, but then grew to embrace his monstrous side as a vessel for his rage. And all his festering resentment only feeds into this Hyde's unfailing loyalty towards his master and their mutual hatred for Nevermore, which no longer accepted Hydes since 1993, thus making them the ultimate kind of outcast. He probably blamed everyone there for the death of his mom and felt like part of his life was stolen and taken from him because of them. And who could blame him, given that Miss Thornhill, aka Laurel Gates, was the ultimate mosquito, always whispering into his ear about how she showed him who he really is and constantly asked him to remember what they did to his mother, thus holding all the outcasts responsible for making him the monster he was. Tyler Galphin's fiasco surely carried on to Season 2. While Wednesday ultimately vanquished Miss Thornhill and Enid took Tyler down in a werewolf versus Hyde battle in the woods, Tyler was definitely not gone for good, nor were his Hyde tendencies, as he turned out to be quite the menace in Season 2. So Wednesday and Tyler are once again reunited in Season 2, Episode 2, The Devil You Woe. In the aftermath of Sheriff Galpin's death, Wednesday visits her former flame at the Willow Hill Psychiatric Facility, where he had been incarcerated in a high-security prison room. The facility is run by Dr. Fairburn, who is a self-proclaimed expert in the treatment of outcasts and allows Wednesday to see Tyler in the hopes of sparking a breakthrough in his treatment. He has apparently been rather unforthcoming until now, so she believed that seeing Wednesday could potentially unlock something new in him. Now, one thing is for sure. The Tyler we see in Season 2 is a far cry from the sweet barista who first stole Wednesday's dark heart in Season 1. When Wednesday goes to see Tyler for a clue in her mystery, you can clearly see that the facade of the nice boy, which dropped at the end of last season, is completely gone now. At this point, he is just a complete monster. Not only physically, but psychologically as well. Not just that, Tyler's look has also definitely evolved this season as he finally shed the good boy aesthetic he was hiding behind in Season 1. He's got scars from his fight with Enid, and his hair is grown out and unkempt from being in confinement for so long. Chained up in a cell that once belonged to a werewolf who went on a killing spree in 1992, there's something almost feral about the way Tyler reacts to seeing his now mortal enemy. In the limited screen time he gets this season, Tyler is totally unhinged in a way that we haven't seen him before. He pretty much seems like an unpredictable caged animal, meaning that nobody has the slightest clue about what he has been thinking or planning on doing next. And yet, something still ties these two together. And like Tyler says, it was inevitable that Wednesday's morbid curiosity would bring her to Willow Hill, simply because she could not resist seeing him again. If one thing is for sure by now, it's the fact that Wednesday is drawn to the darkness. Though Wednesday responds with her usual barbed wit, something about him does always get under her skin, and it's quite evident on her face. I think for Wednesday, it's always been the question of why she was attracted to him. Maybe she's stuck on the idea that someone like her could only fall in love with a monster. Maybe there was something about the darkness in him that she saw and liked. While there is no love triangle this season, that relationship is surely the closest she is going to get to love. It's fascinating to see the push and pull between her emotions, as being around Tyler sort of unnerves her. Anyways, it's Wednesday who breaks the news to Tyler that his father has been murdered, just one day after his old partner, Carl Bradbury. When she implies that there were 2 murders in 2 days and both were connected to his family, Tyler denies any involvement, but threatens Enid's life, which makes us question if he could be the cause of Wednesday's psychic vision that foretells her best friend's death. As she leaves, Wednesday dismisses Tyler as unworthy of her time, which angers him so much he starts to shift into his Hyde form. I think it's pretty clear that Tyler has been spending every waking moment of his time in Willow Hill obsessing over the next chance he would get to see Wednesday. But when she finally comes to see him at Willow Hill, it doesn't go the way he planned. I think he truly believed she wanted to see him again and help him. Maybe Tyler was holding on to his connection to Wednesday. But when Wednesday revealed his father, Sheriff Galpin, had been murdered, he realized that she was only there to get information out of him to help her new investigation, which clearly pissed Tyler off. Fortunately, he had been outfitted with a device that jolts his body with an electric shock and prevents the Hyde from getting out, at least for the time being. Later, we see that Marilyn Thornhill, Tyler's master, has been transferred to Willow Hill by Dr. Fairburn, who explains how she hopes the former Nevermore teacher holds the key to unlocking the elusive Hyde. In a way, she was right. When Thornhill visits Tyler in his cell, he initially pretends to be reaching out for her, only to violently grab her by the neck and transform into his Hyde form. Though Thornhill escapes unscathed, it becomes clear the dynamic between them has shifted. Later in the episode, Thornhill tries to exert control over her charge on him once more while she frees him during a riot caused by Wednesday and Fester. She literally tells him, "Mama will get you out of here," while helping Tyler escape, and assures him how she would never abandon him. Sadly, she read the situation all wrong, as Tyler blames her for his current predicament. He mentions how she was never his mother, but his master. Or at least, she was. Then, out of a twisted sense of lingering affection, Tyler gives Thornhill a 5-second head start to run for her life before transforming into a Hyde, after which he chases her down in the now abandoned halls of Willow Hill and runs her through with his claws, thus killing his master. Tyler clearly felt betrayed and abandoned by his master, and probably thought that his only chance to be free is to free himself from her control, which, unfortunately for her, does mean a death sentence. Well, Tyler's adventures certainly didn't end there, as he was now in search of Wednesday, who put him behind bars in the first place. Part 1 of Season 2 finally ends with Tyler confronting Wednesday in an iconic face-to-face scene before throwing her out of a window and escaping Willow Hill in his Hyde form. Many of us have been wondering why Tyler didn't kill Wednesday. Well, my theory is he never wanted to kill her simply because she does not fear death. But Wednesday does fear Enid being hurt or killed, and given that Tyler definitely wants to see them both suffer, the best revenge for him would be to kill Enid and make Wednesday watch or find her dead body. Tyler is basically sadistic and probably wants to hurt Wednesday emotionally before he kills her. Moreover, in Part 2 of Season 2, we'll get to see a Hyde without a master for the first time, and if you know anything about Hyde mythology, it's the fact that when you kill off your master, a Hyde will eventually go crazy. I think the only way Tyler's getting out of this situation is in an oversized body bag, but that's just my 2 cents.
Tyler.
How powerful is Tyler Galpin's Hyde in Wednesday? As described in the Book of Outcasts, in their human form, Hydes are artists by nature, but they are vindictive as well. When Hydes are unlocked, they can be volatile and exhibit violent and aggressive behavior. In general, it's frowned upon to unlock a Hyde, as a Hyde's agency and autonomy are immediately taken away. Once they transform, a Hyde grows uncannily tall to a point that they hunch over. They also have super sharp teeth and long claws, which helps them tear through their victims easily. Because of the unpredictable and sometimes violent nature of unlocked Hydes, they have been banned from Nevermore Academy since 1993. Like I mentioned before, Hydes lay dormant inside certain people until they're unleashed by a traumatic event or unlocked through chemical inducement or hypnosis. They then go on to form unusually strong bonds with their liberators, whom they see as their masters. Now, we don't see Tyler's true persona as a Hyde until he confesses his real identity to Wednesday. In his Hyde form, Tyler is only motivated by rage and his desire for revenge against those who have wronged him. In general, he's seen to be aggressive towards everyone, especially in Season 2, where he's always an inch away from transforming and ripping everything and everyone to pieces. Now, after being unlocked by their masters, a Hyde not only gains the ability to transform into a monster with long claws and fanged teeth, but they also gain immense strength, mobility, and resilience. Once transformed, all Hydes are similar in appearance, as shown when Wednesday Addams looks them up in Nathaniel Faulkner's diary. Inside the diary, the description and picture of a Hyde from many years ago have a monster form that's eerily similar to the form that Tyler Galpin takes on when he transformed. Now, once a Hyde is transformed, they can act with vastly superior degrees of strength. In fact, it was shown by Tyler that a Hyde can even outmatch a werewolf, though both Tyler and Enid are still teenagers and likely were not in their prime of strength during their altercation in Season 1. A transformed Hyde is also capable of traveling at incredible speeds, being perceived as a blur of motion in the eyes of humans while they're on the run. Moreover, after their transformation, a Hyde can also withstand various kinds of damage. This was shown during Tyler's battle with Enid, in which Tyler was able to withstand repeated attacks from Enid and even withstand a bullet shot. Tyler can also act and move for extended periods of time as a Hyde with little regard for exhaustion or lack of energy. This is shown by Tyler being capable of constantly moving while transformed, without needing to restore his energy over time. I think the only way to control a Hyde is before his transformation, like how Dr. Fairburn did with a shock collar in order to prevent Tyler from turning into his monstrous form. Sadly, once a Hyde is unblocked, the first person to unlock them enslaves them. But when a Hyde is activated, they become a heinous and destructive monster, powerful enough to outmatch every other monster on Earth, which is both their weakness and their strength. So far, Tyler Galpin has killed over 7 people, but something tells me now that he's free and out in the wild without a master to pull the strings, the body count will only go higher. On a funny note, do you think that the Season 2 finale will give us a Hyde versus zombie showdown? Or am I being delusional? Well, what are your thoughts and theories? Let us know in the comment box below.